Zebra Products is the UK's leading distributor of premium equestrian brands catering for horse and rider. From Veridus, Amerigo, Sprenger, Equipe, Uvex and many more leading brands, Zebra's impressive portfolio includes clothing, saddles and accessories, boots for horse and rider, care products, horse rugs and helmets. Head to zebraproducts.co.uk to see where you can purchase their products from, which will help you stay ahead of the herd.
Oh God, it's so exciting. Happy Hail Bob Day.
It is a happy Hail Bob Day.
Hello, the Curse of Dam.
It's the best finishing score we've seen at 5-star level.
That was our elo coming into the competition.
Eventing Manager is back.
Best show that we have, Alphabetti Spaghetti.
Looking forward to seeing quality horses.
Still a great day for Ireland.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
I mean, you're a bit of an eventing geek just like us.
And it's time to get on with the show.
Hello and welcome to another Zebra Products special. And this is a new product that I think is genuinely game-changing. I think it brings equestrian sports right into the 21st century to catch up with other sports where everyone is wearing heart rate monitors and all sorts of wearable devices, giving them all sorts of valuable feedback and data. And we know, look, anyone who follows Equiratings know that we have gone that route and we know the power of being able to measure performance, because that is truly how you can then manage and improve performance. But this is beyond what, Equiratings can do. We just look at results. This is, for me, it was actually a kind of a dream at one point that I said to Deillon. I said, if you could measure takeoff, where the stride pattern to a fence and where you're taking off from, that would be huge, because I came out of my second world championships and I had another bad round of show jumping, and I was looking at my round and it was messy. That I was taking different takeoff points to different fences. It was hard for the horse to get into a rhythm and to keep a regular jump, because I wasn't giving him a regular ride down to the jump. And then I trained pretty hard for 4 or 5 years. I feel like it's slipping a little bit now, but now that I have the Alogo sensor, I'm going to be able to get back training with more purpose than ever. And it's a great pleasure to introduce the creator of this cool new product, David Deillon. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sam. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take the listeners on all sorts of angles here. I want to talk in detail about the product and the value that it adds. And I think for me, how it is going to completely change how we train in the sport. But I want to start a little bit. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to introduce you as a person. You're also a rider. And how did you ever come to think about even creating this product?
Yes, so I'm coming from the show jumping world, I can say. So I've ridden until the highest level, 5 stars competitions, such as CHI Geneva in Switzerland, that you may know. It's a 5-star. I was also part of the Swiss show jumping team in junior, young rider, and elite, and I have also competed to several Nations Cup. So this is really, the idea came really from a professional rider that I always wanted to be able to visualize some feelings that we have when we ride or when we jump, especially the feeling that you have when your horse is jumping sometimes a bit too flat, sometimes a bit too high. And I really wanted to visualize this thing. And this kind of feeling leads the whole development of the product, because we call this feeling in data the real trajectory of the jump or the strides. And having a list of this kind of features that I wanted drive the development of the product. So that means that we came from feelings, needs from the riders, and then we say, okay, now we need to create the technology, we need to create the algorithm and the product to be able to see this kind of data.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head in terms of the way I would look at a sport is I think in life and in everything, we make things really complicated. And actually they can be far more simple. And when I did make a big change to my show jumping, it was because I tried to make it really simple. And I said, look, all I have to do is jump over these fences. And as you say, now we're thinking about trajectory, and you need the highest point of the jump to be where that pole is to give you any chance. If you ride too close to the fence, you're going to make it too difficult. If you're too far off the fence, particularly if it's an oxer, you're going to, again, make it too difficult because you're messing with the trajectory. And then if you can, and I know it sounds too simple, and we're always talking about, balance, and, you've used the word feel there as to where we start. Like, there are so many things, the quality of the canter and our position and the horse's technique in front and behind. There are a lot of ways that we can make it quite complicated. But there's also a lot of power in simplicity. And then there's huge power in being able to, as you say, visualize and actually see the evidence of what you've just done. Because I know a lot of times we come out of the ring and maybe the trainer is focusing on one thing and you are feeling another thing. But to be able to actually have the real picture of what happened, was I too deep to that fence? Did the horse suddenly change the jump for some reason? Was it what I did on the way to the fence, or was it what the horse did even possibly when they were in the air? So that was your motivation behind this.
Yes, exactly. I always say that as a rider, we feel the horse, but we don't see from the outside. But the coach or the trainer sees from the outside, but they actually don't feel the horse. In a way, yes, but not as a rider. And I was facing sometimes this problematic, at the training at home with my several coaches, and I was always saying something is missing in between us. Some objective data that both can start to rely on and start to work and build the training or the feedback after the show.
Yeah, I think it's good that where I see the value in this is I'm doing a lot more running, and I realized I was getting quite old, and I, like you now, I have kids and I have a business. We're quite similar actually from that point of view, and so I needed to keep myself fit. So I started running, and I ran with a heart rate monitor on, mainly because I was forced to by our trainer. They wanted to know that we were doing some fitness before Tokyo because it was going to be hot. And what I started to learn when I was measuring my heart rate is that depending on the certain times of day, depending on maybe how much sleep I had, what I'd been eating, how much exercise I'd done the day before, I could run 5 kilometers in 25 minutes. And some days that was my heart rate would stay in and around to the 80% of its max capacity, which is, not too hard. And other days I could be getting up to 85, 90 halfway through the run and really actually struggling to finish the run off. It was a big effort. And yet it was the same distance at the same speed. And so my body is clearly, is different from one day to the next. And I have to be careful because if I keep pushing it too much, it is going to deteriorate. And then if I don't push it enough, it's not going to improve. And and this all makes complete sense to runners. This is how training is done in a lot of fitness sports like running, cycling. This is what they're monitoring. They're monitoring how much effort they put in. Then they're trying to get the recovery period right. And then they want to be able to push them a little bit more, 3-4 days later. This kind of cycle of stress and rest. So what this now looks like, so what this has been looking like in our world is that we jump our horses maybe once or twice a week. We wouldn't do too many big days of jumping in a row. We know it's probably going to be too much for the horse, even though they have to do this sometimes in competition. So it's something we need to think about and look at this recovery and how long a horse can hold their shape for and hold their power for. in consecutive days, or even throughout a round of show jumping? How much does that power change? How does the trajectory change from fence 1 through to fence 12? And we're always feeling this, but we don't get the same feeling every day. Some days we're thinking the horse is jumping well, some days the horse is jumping not so well, but we're not always agreeing as to whether, is it something that we're doing? Is it something with the horse? Is it to do with their energy? Is it maybe physical? Are they starting to move? You know, they're starting to drift right on the fence a little bit more because maybe they're feeling a little bit of a weakness in a hind leg. These are all the types of things that we try to feel, but then it goes away because it's in our heads. And I can't honestly remember what my horse was doing 3 months ago, let alone, you know, probably even 3 weeks ago or 3 days ago. So you measure all of this now: the trajectory of the jump, the length of the stride, even the horse's angle from, you know, whether they're a little bit on the forehand or not, or whether they're going drifting left or right on the fence. So talk to the listeners and tell them about the product, because it's amazing how many things it does actually measure.
Yes, thank you. So exactly, we measure every angles. So the front, back, left, right, straightness. Left, right, balance, straightness. We have the speed. We have the cadence, and we have the same for the jumps, so the length and height of the jumps, the trajectories, and there is no limit in time. So that means that if you record 1 minute, you can record 1 hour. You can pick the stride that you want anywhere during the session that you have recorded. And then we can also extract other data out of those basics data. We have, for example, the energy consumption that we have added a few weeks ago. And with the energy consumption, we are working now on efficiency of the horse over the jump, to know if the horse was more efficient or less efficient depending on the fence. So we have also the path mapping in a very high accuracy way. Just a short sentence about the accuracy. We have done a scientific validation with the lab, University of Zurich and University of Sweden, where we have compared our sensor with the Qualisys system. The Qualisys, I don't know if you know it. It's a high-speed camera that you install into an arena, and you put some markers on the horse, and you have a 3D representation of the horse. You know, it's like the movies Avatar or Star Wars movies. You know, so we have done this exercise with 11 horses. And then we have put the sensor on it, only one Move Pro. The horses were full of markers, like I think it was like 13 or more markers, you know, on the head, on the legs, on the riders as well. And we have conducted this scientific validation in order to prove the high accuracy of our data. So the official report will be available in a few months, but the first results are really, really good. So we'll be happy to share those with you as well.
The creator going into the straight into the science and the validation and things like that. But it's really important. I mean, that's what that it is. Exactly. It's very important to have that done. Exactly. I mean, we like the fun stuff, and we just like playing with it and seeing that. Like my warm up before going to a European Championships, the day before, I was doing like 3 or 4 different canter sets up and down, and I was just straight back in going, okay, it was only 2.9 meters when I was having a gentle canter, and then it was 3.5 meters, and then I was getting up to 4 meters, which is what we walk. I mean, I'm going to go into just how useful this is, but I don't want to interrupt you into your flow. But thank you for the science bit and the validation bit.
I think it's like you said. I think it's important because in a way, when we measure the horse or the rider's performances, we judge. You know, so some riders ask us how accurate it is. You know, because we were showing, you were more balancing, 3-4 degrees to the right. But the first question was, okay, how accurate it is. So I think it was very important to have this validation in order to say, look, we have tested it, it is accurate, so you can trust the technology.
That is good. I want to touch on for me, the two biggest value adds that I see, and then you can sort of, add your other thoughts to it as well. But for me, a lot of the problems that I think people have is maybe related distances in the jumping, and then I think managing their horse. How long can I keep my horse going all season? How much can I do with my horse? Am I actually, there's a balance between improving them and helping them to get stronger and better, and am I getting the most out of the horse? And then there's not pushing it too far. Am I dragging out my season too long? Should I give them a break? So I think, I'm going to cover these 2 points: getting better as a rider and managing your horse better. And what that might look like for you, if you're a listener right now, is, chipping in strides in combinations, or struggling with, maybe getting quite fast down related distances because, if there's a 6 stride distance, I'm just going to do 7 strides. But if there's a 4 stride distance, I'm just going to end up going a bit fast to get there. And basically what is happening is that in order to get this 12-foot canter, which is what the course designers are measuring on, you are having to use speed in order to get the horse's stride longer. You're asking the horse to basically go faster as well, and it's flattening then the trajectory of the jump. And what you need to do, and what your coach is probably telling you to do, or they should be telling you to do, is to help with the horse's suppleness, so that the horse can get to that 12-foot canter that they need in the ring, that they need for the combination fences in order to do the 1 stride distance or the 2 stride distance, and then the related distances regularly, so the 4 strides and the 5 strides, which is in every show jumping course. That they need to be able to do that without really accelerating too much and flattening the jump. And you can now measure that. You can now get daily feedback. You can now train in the way footballers take penalty kicks time after time, and tennis players serve a ball over a net hundreds of times, and golfers put a ball into a hole hundreds of times. We, I think in equestrian sports, are a little bit guilty of training without purpose. And I think we should repeat these exercises a little bit more and have the validation and the feedback. And it's hard to get that if coaching is expensive. Paying a trainer all the time is expensive. You're still going to need a coach, but you might actually be able to train every day. And this is again a totally new concept, because most people maybe train once a month, maybe twice a month, maybe once a week if they're really lucky. But a lot of people I know only train maybe once a month or once every couple of months with a trainer. Now you could train every day with this feedback that shows you, yes, you're improving that stride length, or yes, you are keeping that straightness on your horse more. And I know people are thinking, well, I know I'm not doing it well enough, and I know what my problems are. And that's like saying to a business, I know I need to make more money, so I'm not going to look at my accounts. I'm not going to look at my profit or my loss or my sales or my expenses. I'm not going to look at all of the details of my business. I'm just going to try and make more money. We don't do that. Our brains, we're always trying as hard as we can, but without focus, without actually looking at the evidence on a regular basis, we are not going to focus on our and really improve our performance and really train with much more purpose. We need that reminder almost daily. You don't have to put yourself under that much pressure to do it every single day, but I would encourage people, and I'm guilty myself. I know how hard that is to do it, but I know the reward as well. And I'm suffering it right now. I mean, my own show jumping this year has not been as well. We're busy, we make sacrifices, and the whole has been in my training. I know that I haven't trained with the same purpose because of lockdown, because of COVID and things like that. And getting into the habit of training, and this tool, I just think, to be able to do it at home, to not have to rely on having the access to the coach all the time. And the coach could actually help you with it. We could be having a call like this. The coach is looking at the computer of your session that you did today. They might not even be in the same country as you. And they're able to review your session. And it's so powerful. It's absolutely the future. There is no way, when we look at how other sports train, there's no way that in 10 years' time, we don't all have wearable devices on our horses, and this is the device, and you can start it right now. So I think that is amazing. Agreed, Dale. I mean, I feel like I'm selling your product for you, but that is what makes me so excited about it. And that's kind of from the rider point of view. And then from the horse point of view and managing the horse, I think it's these changes. And this is where, again, I keep finding myself saying like, well, I'll feel it. I'll feel if the horse is a little bit off and not itself, and I'll just decide then to back off for a day. But again, for all the same reasons, like I've just said regarding the rider and their training, you need to be able to quantify that, because our feel is not bomb-proof. It's good, and it should never be ignored. It's always going to be art and science. So we never ignore it. But we should be able to, I think, measure the improvement in the horses. How often do we say, oh, the horse is really getting stronger? Well, can we actually see the evidence of that, by how much? And then maybe when we see that actually the horse's trajectory over jump has gone from where the max height of the jump, you might only be jumping a meter, but the horse might be jumping 1.35 meters, whereas they were only previously jumping 1.10 meters. So they were only just clearing the jump. Now they're clearing it by more. Again, it's pretty obvious to see, but when you see it done repetitively, time after time, jump after jump, that horse has definitely improved, and it can probably help you to plan their stress and their training cycle a little bit more. So when they stop improving and maybe they actually start to disimprove a little bit, that's when you're saying, okay, there's now no longer any more improvement in this. The muscles are starting to get tired. We've been in work for 6 or 7 months straight of training, maybe a few small little breaks and things like that. But now it's time to maybe just to really have a quiet month. So that's it from the horse's point of view.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this, and I totally agree with you. And I would like just to add maybe a few things about that. So how I use also the device on my own horse is that I think the key, like you said, is to repeat and try to have the horse repeat the movement, or having a jump regularity score that is close to 100%, so that the horse repeats its movement. And how I do is that I use the sensor every day, and then when I have the show jumping, I try to see how it was, how was the competition, and then if my plan was good because the show was good, then that horse is jumping perfectly with this kind of setup, before the competition, for example. The idea is also that what you try to achieve is to repeat, your own recipe to succeed. So to have a successful show. So I have listened to another podcast about sleeping, because I have a sleep tracker also with me. Yeah. And the guy was saying an interesting quote. He said, "What gets measured gets managed." So I think it's exactly the same for us, because for example, if you have a horse that gets injured, maybe, or that you weren't sure that the horse was good, so just check the data, come back in time, and then you can start to investigate. Where the horse started to be different. But if you don't measure anything, and then you have the horse that is lamening, for example, then you cannot guess. You just guess, and you cannot do anything to avoid it next time. And this brings me to a new feature that we will be delivering by the end of the year. It's the automatic injury detection. So that means that we have new algorithm and machine learning algorithm that can first detect the horse automatically. So if you have 5 horses, we can automatically say which horse it was, without touching anything to your phone or to the device. But we can also automatically detect the rider. So if it was you, your groom, your wife riding, or your friends. Then the third step is to automatically detect the regularity of the horse. For example, if the horse is not so regular in the front right limb, upper level, lower level. Today, this is not in place. This is currently in beta, but it will be available later in the year. But at the end, what I wanted to say is that it allows me to get more reassured myself, when I finish the training or I don't know, the competition or the jumping training. And I had sometimes a bit, I don't know, bad feeling. You say, oh, maybe the horse is a bit tired, maybe the stride is a bit shorter today, a bit flatter. But then I look the data and I say, oh no, actually that was like the day before or the 2 days before, and the horse was quite consistent. And this is exactly what you said before, that it's good to have feelings, but sometimes you are not really sure. So I think it's a very valid point to have this kind of data to get a bit more reassured about also the choice that you make. If you change the bit, if you change, I don't know, the spurs, or you change something, but then you want to see the influence of it.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I mean, our feelings are all relative. I think when we haven't ridden ourselves for a while and we get back on a horse and we jump them, it can feel, particularly if it's a good horse, it feels really good because you haven't been there for a while. And then if you do the same for a few days, maybe it doesn't feel quite as good, but actually it's just normal. You're just getting used to it. So again, as you say, having the validation, I really like the concept of being able to measure your recipe for success, like a cook. It is quite actually scientific. The chef doesn't say, take that piece of steak there and put it on the frying pan and, maybe cook it for 2 minutes, maybe cook it for 4 minutes, see how you feel. Like it's a pretty exact recipe. And I know that people will instantly think, oh, horses are different on different days. And yes, like humans, they are. But the real proper performance is that you actually are so well prepared, and you have so much detail behind your training that you are able to ensure that they will feel the way you need them to feel on the right day. That is how the best people in sport win medals on the day that matters. That is what tapering is about. Exactly. So that they, when they're building up their whole training plan, that they're in low level work a few months out, then it's medium work, then there's a really intense period of work, and then they're backing off a little bit before the competition. And that's other sports, and we can catch up. And I think a lot of people are listening to this podcast going, wow, is this just a concept? Like, I mean, this sounds amazing, but this is real. Tell us, David, about the European Championships that have just taken place in eventing in Avanches. I think the first thing that I want to point out is that we've been talking quite sort of about the show jumping side. I think that's where a lot of the examples have come from. But even with injury detection and the symmetry and the stride length and the sort of the power aspect of the stride, there's a lot that could be used in dressage. And then obviously we did this study in the cross country as well in Avanches. So I'll let you take over the reins on this one.
Yes, of course. Thank you. The device can be used in show jumping, but also cross country and dressage, like you said. In Avanches, we have conducted a scientific study in collaboration with the FEI Eventing Risk and Management and Steering Group in order to improve the safety of the horses and the rider during cross country. So the beginning of this study started last year in 2020, where the Swiss chef d'équipe and team vet Dominic Berger called me because he has a plan to conduct a 3 week masterclass. He called that. During the coronavirus pandemic, I mean the lockdown in Switzerland, we couldn't make any competition. So he organized 3 times at the same place, at the same level, with the same Swiss riders, some big trainings like eventing competitions. So we were there for the three events. We have collected the data in collaboration with the ISME, University of Bern, Switzerland. And that was the first step to, the first part of this kind of study. And then the second part was this year in June, where there was CCI 4-star short international competition at the same place in Avanches, and the European Championship in September last weekend. And we were also there in June. And now this study that we are talking about, we took the knowledge that we got last year in 2020, and we have improved also the way we collect the data. The first time you do some little mistakes, and then now we were ready this year to collect much more data, and also very interesting data. Then what actually we are doing there? So we put the sensor on horses over the girth. And the idea is to detect the fatigue of the horse during the cross country, because the FAI told me that now they have changed a lot of things about the fences, how do you place the fences, the
ground lines and profiles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but there are still some injuries or some falls, but they want to know now more and get more information about why horses sometimes falls or sometimes get injured, and putting this system on horses in competition allows them and also us for the study to gather very interesting data about what actually happened. For example, if a horse get injured or got out because, I don't know, the judges decided this, allows us to now better understand what really happened, what makes the horse getting more tired at that moment, or how can we improve maybe the course, how maybe can we change the strides between the fences. And few interesting things came out already in June. For example, when the horse getting tired at the end of the cross country, actually the strides became longer, not shorter but longer, but more flatter. Another thing is that the weight of the horse, front back balance that we have at the end of the cross country, the horses are much more in the front limbs. It can be obvious in a way, but now we have facts and we know that at the last minutes the horse are much more in the front, in the front legs. Another thing, observation that we saw is that at the beginning of the class, the horses were more twisted, on the fence, the straightness was more to the right or to the left, and a bit less at the end. So it brings us an idea that say, okay, maybe the riders at the beginning were more holding the horse, and as they are left or right-handed, the horses were more twisting, in one side or the other side. So this is again some very interesting data to better understand what actually happened during the cross country. I don't know if you have other observation on your side, what you have done last week.
I think it's such a massive step forward for our sport to be able to do this. I know when I took my horse, Ballybulger Talisman, he's a young horse, he's a 10-year-old, but he's barely 16 hands. He's a small horse, and he's also very sort of excitable. He loves, he's nearly full thoroughbred. He loves the cross country. So he's got a lot of energy and a lot of class that he can. 10 minutes of galloping is natural to him, where it's not as natural to all horses. But his stride would naturally be quite short, and for him to go fast, he's very good at moving his legs quickly. So he can take a lot of strides per second, but not necessarily cover the ground. And I'm sitting on this horse who I think should be one of the fastest horses I've ever ridden, but I wasn't actually doing very fast times Even I remember my first long format 4-star at the beginning of this year in Ballindennis. I was 1 or maybe 2 seconds over the time, over 10-minute course. And I was really disappointed because I was having to work a little bit on the course. I was thinking this horse should be easily able to do the time, because a good few horses went inside the time. And the problem was the stride length. I needed him to relax, actually. He was nearly too excited, which means he was sort of, almost too jumpy in his stride and not actually relaxing and letting his head down a little bit, letting me get the reins out. And when I now, thanks to the Alogo sensor, I can look at my round in Avanche, I can see that before the second and third fence, 5 strides out, 4 strides out, 3 strides out, this horse's stride length was over 5 meters. And that is huge for that horse, but it's taken me a long time to get there, to be able for him to be relaxed enough, and for me to be aware of it as well, because I think a lot of people think that when they want to be faster, they just need more speed. You don't actually, and by speed, I mean probably, strides per second, that the horse just needs to move its legs faster. And actually the horse needs to relax. And then I can see towards the end of the course, which is really good, that the trajectory of the jump, when I compare fence 1 against fence 32, which I think is the last fence, the height of the jump on the last fence is actually higher. Like he's actually giving it a nice bit. Now I'm probably making a tactical decision at the beginning of the course. I'm staying open. I'm saying I really want to be soft with my hands and move up to this fence. And at the end of the course, I'm probably thinking a little bit more. I want to balance the horse. But, that's how I have got there. And I've got there from having the information on this horse, seeing that a lot of the times on the cross country, the stride was only just getting over 4 meters, which sounds fine if you're in show jumping strides. That's a fraction long, like 3.9 meters is probably about right for a related distance. But in cross country, you need to be able to get up to over 5 meters of a stride length. And again, when we're walking cross country courses, we often walk it like it's a show jumping distance. And for some fences, that is correct. For some fences, like fence 4 at the European Championships, was an upright rail to a ditch, a little bit downhill. And of course, you don't want to come in with too much speed. There's a frangible device on it, and it's not the right place to be fast. But there's other places on the course where you could be much more open, and you might be able to, if it walks 5 show jumping strides, you might be able to do 4 strides in a cross country canter. If the profile of the fence is good and you're able to give them the right ride down to the fence, you should be able to do that. And now we can actually start to have the evidence to back up these strategic decisions, and we can train ourselves. So I can train riders at home to say, I need you to be able to canter down. I need you to be able to find a 4.5 meter canter first and foremost, without being out of control. And then maybe even a 5 meter canter, and then to be able to actually see a stride out of that, to practice riding down to an obstacle like that. Because if you want to make the times at the top level of the sport, you need to be able to do that. I think it's so cool. And the training side, looking at managing our horses side, and then also from this in terms of where the sport could go in terms, as you say, like from a regulation point of view and things like that. It's interesting to kind of have this, just more information to back us up. And then maybe it's not always what we think it is as well. I always say that sort of 90% of the time the data is backing up what we feel, but at least it's objective, and at least it is backing it up, and you don't question yourself. But 10% of the time you're learning new things, and those are the times it's really valuable, when you're a little bit challenged, that you thought what you were doing was right, and then you're actually seeing some hard evidence that says, actually, it's not quite what you think. And that can be so valuable, because those are the things that we would never have been able to achieve, and the gains that we wouldn't have been able to make without a device like this. So let's let people know where they can get this. So firstly, check out, so Alogo is very easy to spell, ALOGO, and your website, David, is it just alogo.io?
Exactly. It's alogo.io. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. So there's your website. And then for people listening, I mean, people are going to be listening all over the world for this. Firstly, you can get in contact with me on Sam at Equiratings. You can get in contact with David as well. But if you want to know more about it from either of us, that's cool. If you're based in Ireland and you want to have a lesson and have the sensor on, get in touch with me. I'm Sam at Equiratings, as you all know. But Zebra Products as well are going to be teaming up with Amerigo, because actually what we haven't talked about is just how easy it is to attach this device. There are two ways, and again, I'll let you take over because I just keep talking.
Yeah, no problem. So, very good product. So, yes, to attach to put the sensor on the horse, we provide a sensor holder, that we call it, like that, and it's actually made by Amerigo saddles directly. So we have different sizes. We have 3 sizes. This is one way to fit the sensor to the horse. This sensor holder came with the sensor. So if you get the sensor, you get this holder. But another option is to have an Amerigo girth with an integrated pouch in it. So we have the jumping stud girth. So it's the classic jumping stud girth, but we also have the eventing girth with this pouch inside it. So that's a really good material. Maybe some riders ask us, if the horse hits the sensor, does it resist? And of course, the answer is yes, because we built the case of the sensor to be resistant to the shock, to the dust, to the water. And actually, we were at the European for cross country, and I think it's the best way to test the resistance of the sensor, especially in cross country. So it was a 4-star long. Every sensor were safe at the end, and they are still working now. So it's really
that's a good test. Another test passed. Yeah, no, I've used mine in all sorts of cross country schooling and everyone in rainy days in Ireland and all that. But it's attached to the girth. It's not very big. It's very easy. It's very easy to put on and off. And it syncs with, you can sync it with an app on your phone. You can just press the button a couple of times and it just starts recording, and you can sync it then at nighttime and analyze to your heart's content and on your laptop. So that's the fun bit as well. And that's the other bit that's of value. Again, it's something that we don't do enough, I think, in equestrian sports, because we're so used to, certainly the professional riders, riding through 6 or 7 horses in a day. I think when you're doing, particularly because we know we don't want to jump our horses every day, the days when we are jumping them, we should be analyzing. It's every other sport would be looking back at what they were doing, either using video analysis or looking back at the data.
Even if you don't have time, like every day is to look at in really detailed data, you just record them, have an overview, of what you have done, and then continue to record. And afterwards, you can, like we discussed previously, you can, I don't know, maybe in 3 days say, what I have done Monday, and I just want to keep tracking, about all those data. You said it's really simple, so you have only one button, indeed, and so you can also use the sensor, so the device, without the smartphone. So if you have multiple horses, just turn on the sensor, record the first horse, then stop with the button, then put it on the second horse, record, etc., until the last horse. So I think this is something very convenient also. Especially when I'm in competition, I don't have my smartphone with me, but I leave it in the car, and you can still record the data in a very simple way. Then for the people that want to see an example of data, so they can download our apps or register to our web app. So the web app is app.alogo.io. They can register, and then once they are registered, there is a demo session in it. So you can already play with some data and see some examples, about a show jumping course and see how it looks like.
Yeah, it's cool. And I think, as you say, I can see racehorse trainers and dressage people, I mean, kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum, but I can see, I can just look at my warm up where I'm trotting. I can move the slider. So just to look at the first 2 minutes of trot and to just look at the average stride length, the trot, how many strides per minute I'm taking. Because then, as you say, I don't need to do this every day necessarily, but on the day that I go, geez, I just don't know if he's feeling great, if something's if something's going on there, and you can say, well, look, if everything's the same, as you say, you don't necessarily discard your feelings, but it backs it up. Maybe you go, oh God, there's a big change. I need to be careful. Or actually, no, there wasn't as much as a change, so I will, I can keep going and see if it gets better or worse, or if my feeling changes on it. But you have this information to back up what you're doing. It's cool.
Yeah, and I also like personally to see the difference when I'm riding my horse and when my wife is riding my horse. So you can see a difference in the stride length and height also, and the power of the stride, but also the equilibrium of the horse. And I think it's interesting to see the influence of the rider to the same horse, for example, and then you can talk, what did you do to have the horse, moving that way, and so on. You can do this kind of comparison with such data.
Well, that's going to be interesting because before, I've had a couple of championships where I've managed to injure myself before the championship, and the horse has always gone a lot better because my wife has been riding him beforehand. So we know. I already know in this household that it's better, but now maybe I can figure out how and why. So that's really cool. David, thank you for that. I think it's a cool one for the listeners, and we've sort of done a few shows about a lot of products that have been around for a long time and how they started and things like this. But I think we're talking about the Alogo sensor as it's at an exciting time because it has been tested, as you say, sort of scientifically, and even in use cases like now the European Championships, that to have, riders riding at that level around a cross country course. This product is ready to go. It's going to cost you somewhere around the equivalent of about 20 lessons. And you could basically make that back in a month because, if you ride your horse with this, every day, the amount of information that you are going to get, you are going to more than pay this off. It's going to be one of the best investments that you're going to be able to make. And it's going to bring your quality. It'll allow you to train to a level that just, the sport, it's the future, the next level of what we can do. I'm really excited to see, what it means for when professional riders start using it. Is it one of these devices that could spark a sort of new level in performance as well? Like we've seen this in other sports when you look at tennis players now these days and how they play versus 20 years ago. Standards increase with as new technology and new training tools become available, the standard goes up. I think this is one of those tools. So congratulations for thinking it up, designing it, making it happen, bringing it to the world. And
thanks a lot, Sam.
No problem, Dave.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the kind words. And I would be happy to answer any questions that your audience may have. So you can directly contact me on social networks or by email or through you. That's not a problem for me. Thanks a lot
exactly.
Again.
No problem, David. I mean, it's a good point, listeners. You can get in touch with us on our usual kind of podcast channels as well, on social media and things like that. If we get inundated with questions and they're all really good, maybe we'll have to get you back on the show and do a follow up. It could be one of those things where I think people's minds are sort of switched on and going, wow, could it do this? Could it do that? But we'll hopefully be able to answer a lot of them for you, listeners. And I think if you are, look, we're nearly getting towards Christmas, aren't we? So if you need to spoil yourself, your horse, if you're a parent thinking, how am I going to get my kid to the next level? this is
Exactly.
a tool that you absolutely need. Very good.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
No problem, David.
Yeah,
we will see you again soon. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. See you again soon. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, listeners. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Equiratings Eventing podcast.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. And I look forward to having you back with us soon.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more.
Listeners, we'll speak to you again soon.